Ambassador Lyria of the Stellan Confederation stood at the viewport of her diplomatic vessel, watching Earth grow larger against the void. Her silver skin reflected the pale blue light of the planet below, a world she had studied extensively but never understood. The marriage contract rested in her ceremonial pouch, its weight both literal and symbolic. She would wed a human to secure peace between their species, a union that would prevent war and save billions of lives. The humans had been expanding through the galaxy for merely 2 centuries, yet they had already disrupted the careful balance maintained by elder civilizations for millennia. They negotiated trade agreements with unexpected ferocity, defended their colonies with disturbing creativity, and refused to acknowledge the natural hierarchies that governed galactic society. The Confederation Council had debated for months before choosing this path. Marriage, they believed, would bind the humans through honor and create a bridge neither side could easily burn. Lyria descended to the surface in a ceremonial lander, her 3 attendants silent behind her. The human city sprawled beneath them, chaotic and bright, lacking the geometric perfection of Stellan architecture. They landed in a garden plaza where her intended husband waited with his delegation. Thomas Rivers stood in formal diplomatic attire, his brown hair slightly disheveled by the breeze. He was neither the most decorated general nor the highest-ranking politician, but rather a historian and cultural liaison who had spent years studying alien civilizations. The Confederation had requested someone who understood the weight of symbolism. The humans had sent someone who understood the weight of consequences. Ambassador Lyria. Thomas bowed in the Stellan fashion, his movements precise. Your presence honors us. She returned the gesture with equal formality. Historian Rivers. I come bearing the hopes of my people. The ceremony took place 3 days later in a neutral space station, attended by dignitaries from 40 worlds. Lyria wore traditional Stellan robes that shifted color with her emotions, currently displaying the deep purple of solemn duty. Thomas wore a simple black suit that seemed almost defiant in its plainness among the elaborate costumes of the assembled aliens. They spoke the vows in 5 languages, binding themselves under both human and Stellan law. When Thomas placed the ceremonial bracelet on her wrist, his hand trembled slightly. Lyria noticed but did not comment. Perhaps he was nervous. Perhaps he understood, as she did, that they were both sacrifices on the altar of peace. The first month passed in careful politeness. They maintained separate quarters on the diplomatic station, meeting for meals and public appearances. Lyria studied her husband with the same analytical attention she applied to treaty negotiations. Thomas was thoughtful and quiet, spending his days in the station's archive, reviewing historical conflicts between species. He asked her questions about Stellan culture that no other human had thought to ask, probing past the surface protocols to the philosophical foundations beneath. Why do your people value consensus so highly? He asked one evening over dinner. Lyria set down her utensil. Because discord breeds chaos. Unity creates strength, but enforced unity can breed resentment. Thomas leaned forward. Your history texts mention the harmony purges, when dissenting voices were removed for the greater good. Do you believe that was strength? She felt her skin flicker toward orange, the color of discomfort. No outsider had ever challenged that particular chapter of Stellan history. We have evolved beyond such measures. Have you? Or have you simply become better at making dissent invisible? The question haunted her. That night, Lyria accessed restricted Stellan archives she had never bothered to examine before. The harmony purges had eliminated not just political dissidents, but artists, philosophers, and innovators whose ideas threatened the established order. The official histories called it a necessary correction. The sealed records revealed it as systematic cultural genocide. She confronted Thomas the next morning. Why did you make me look at that? He met her gaze steadily. Because peace built on comfortable lies is just a delayed war. If we're going to make this work, we both need to see clearly. The statement unsettled her, but she began to understand something about humans that her diplomatic briefings had missed. They did not seek comfort. They sought truth, even when it cut. The revelation came during the 4th month, when a crisis erupted in the outer reaches. A Stellan colony ship had encountered a Vryn war fleet, and the Vryn were demanding the Stellans withdraw from a disputed system. The Confederation Council convened an emergency session, inviting Thomas as Lyria's spouse. The debate followed predictable patterns. The Doves argued for withdrawal to maintain peace. The Hawks wanted to send military reinforcements. Both sides maneuvered for political advantage, while carefully avoiding anything that might upset the delicate consensus. Thomas listened in silence for 2 hours before he stood. With respect, you are all wasting time. His voice carried across the council chamber. The Vryn are not interested in negotiation. They are testing your resolve. Every moment you spend debating, they become more certain you will fold. High Chancellor Varen's skin flashed red with anger. You presume to lecture this council on matters you barely comprehend? We have maintained galactic peace for 4,000 years through careful diplomacy. No, Thomas said quietly. You have maintained the appearance of peace by surrendering incrementally to anyone willing to threaten violence. I have reviewed 73 territorial disputes in the past century. In 68 cases, the Confederation ceded the contested space. You are not diplomats. You are appeasers. The chamber erupted in outrage. Lyria felt her own skin burn red. But Thomas continued, his voice cutting through the noise. The Vryn attacked a human research station last year. We did not debate. We did not form committees. We sent a single message. Return the station and personnel unharmed, or face consequences. They returned everything within 6 hours. Do you know why? Because they knew we meant it. Violence is not strength, Varen declared. It is the failure of civilization. Thomas shook his head. Violence is a tool, neither good nor evil. The failure is in being unwilling to use any tools at all. You have convinced yourselves that your reluctance to fight is moral superiority. It is not. It is cowardice dressed in philosophical robes. The council voted to withdraw the colony ship. Thomas voted against it, the only dissenting voice. Lyria abstained, torn between her conditioning and her growing doubts. That night, she found Thomas in the observation deck, staring at the stars. They hate you now, she said. I know. Was it worth it? You accomplished nothing except making enemies. Thomas turned to face her. I planted a seed of doubt. Some of them will think about what I said. They will look at the historical pattern. They will realize that appeasement has costs they have been unwilling to calculate. That is how change begins. We do not need change. We need stability. Lyria, your civilization is dying. Not from war or plague, but from an unwillingness to adapt. You have mistaken cultural stagnation for wisdom. Every species that has ever dominated the galaxy fell because they became too rigid to bend, too comfortable to grow. She wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat. Deep down, she knew he was right. The Confederation had not produced a significant cultural innovation in centuries. Their technology advanced through incremental refinements, never bold leaps. Their philosophy had calcified into dogma. This is why the deities fear your kind, she whispered. Not because you are violent, because you refuse to stop changing. Thomas smiled sadly. The universe does not reward species that stand still. It rewards those who adapt, who learn, who overcome. Humanity has no special virtue. We simply never learn to be satisfied with what we have. The Vryn occupied the disputed system without resistance. 3 more Stellan colonies withdrew from border regions in the following months. The Confederation Council praised their own restraint, while their territory slowly contracted. But something had shifted in Lyria. She began speaking differently in council sessions, questioning assumptions, challenging comfortable consensus. Other young ambassadors, who had harbored similar doubts in silence, found courage in her example. A small faction formed, advocating for reform. Thomas continued his historical research, but now he included Lyria in his analysis. Together, they documented the pattern. Civilizations that prioritized harmony over truth inevitably stagnated, then declined. The Confederation was following a well-worn path to irrelevance. On their one-year anniversary, Lyria stood beside Thomas at the same viewport where she had first arrived. "I have been thinking," she said, "about why we chose marriage as the tool for peace. And we chose it because we believed it would bind you to our ways. We thought human aggression could be tempered by stellan wisdom." She paused. "We were wrong about which direction the influence would flow." Thomas took her hand. "Change is not conquest, Lyria. I did not come here to make you human. I came here to hold up a mirror. And now I see what it reflects." She turned to him, her skin shifting to gold, the color of revelation. "A civilization that has forgotten how to be brave. So what will you do?" Lyria smiled. "I will remind them, even if it takes the rest of my life, even if I fail, because I finally understand what